Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. These are pretty popular. I think most people, anybody who's like, at least been a Christian for a couple years has probably at least heard this verse before. But I got my notes over here. We're just going to talk a little bit about what these two verses mean, how God could be speaking to you, how he does speak to you right now through this word. And so let's just get into this. Philippians 4, 6 and 7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. This is such an insanely powerful verse. And so let's just start off with verse 6. Do not be anxious about anything. It's such a powerful command because it reminds us, first of all, that anxiety is a common struggle. I think often when we get anxious about things, we don't think about the fact that, everyone else is kind of anxious in their own ways, right? As people, we always find reasons to be anxious, even if we're in, a great situation, right? We're anxious about how are we going to pay the bills? Who's going to pick up the kids from school? Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? Did I pay the phone bill? All this kind of stuff, right? I'm just listing off random things. A lot of those were financial, but anything, right? We get anxious all the time about the most random stuff, from just, worrying about something that's going to happen tomorrow to actual clinical anxiety, shaking and stuff. So we all struggle with anxiety. So the question now, right, is how do we conquer that anxiety? What do we do about it? Well, Paul answers this, right? But in everything, right? Anytime you're feeling anxious, anytime you feel like you need help, what is the answer? By prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. So let's talk about that, right? Because in some ways, prayer and supplication with thanksgiving are the same thing, but I'm going to kind of get into the differentiation. So prayer is an umbrella term for us in communion with God, right? That is prayer. So that could include, thanksgiving, adoration, confession, supplication, right? These are all examples of prayer. But supplication is specific. Supplication is asking God for something directly. So think about it like this. Imagine you sit down with your dad, right, at the dinner table, and you have a conversation with him. You're talking about your day. You're telling him how you're doing. You're asking how he's doing, all this kind of stuff. And then you let him know, hey, Dad, I'm really struggling to pay the rent this month. Can you help me out? So that is prayer, a normal conversation, versus supplication, actually asking for something, okay? So that is kind of the differentiation there, right? But it's not just supplication. It's not just saying, God, I need this thing. Please help me get this thing. With thanksgiving. Because we have to remember, right? Thanksgiving, being grateful, conquers anxiety. I'm sure that, by now we've all heard the kind of cliche going around in the Christian community that anxiety and gratefulness cannot exist at the same time in the brain, right? So this is literal scientific advice. If you are grateful, you cannot be anxious. So when we ask God for something, we don't just ask God without recognizing what we can be thankful for. Because no matter what we're going through, no matter what we're experiencing, no matter what kind of trials and tribulations are in front of us, we always have something to be thankful for. The breath in our lungs, if nothing else, right? We always have something to be thankful for. So that's just something to remember. How do we conquer anxiety? By prayer and supplication with thanksgiving and letting our requests be made known to God. Don't be afraid to tell God what you need. Always, pair that with thanksgiving, with telling him that you are grateful, but don't be afraid to ask. Ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will open. Okay, so that's verse 6. Let's get into verse 7. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. This is God's peace. That's a big deal, right? Because it's not kind of like, oh, you have your own peace and he's, bringing that out of you. No, this is God's peace, the peace of God. That is very peaceful. Like, if you imagine, how peaceful someone can be without God, imagine the peace of God, right? If 100 people get murdered, God is still peaceful. Not that he won't be upset, obviously, but God's peace is unmovable. It's unshakable. It's eternal, right? So the fact that we can have the peace of God through supplication and prayer is a big deal. Which surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So let's talk about that phrase, which surpasses all understanding. If you are a true born-again Christian, you know what this verse is saying when it says the peace that surpasses all understanding, right? A lot of times as Christians, we're going through difficult things, we're having challenges, we're, bearing our cross and denying ourselves, right? But we just have this peace. And sometimes we can think to ourselves like, wait, my family member is sick, I'm not making the most money right now, my girlfriend just broke up with me. Like, obviously I'm not happy about these things, but why do I feel peace? Like, why do I feel okay? And that is because we have the peace of God, right? And that's so beautiful. And it guards our hearts. The word in Greek here for guard isn't just like, keep it safe. It's a military phrase, as in like guarding a city from the enemies, right? It's like an active, mechanism to fight against evil, okay? That peace of God, it is combating the devil. It is combating the flesh. It is combating any demonic spirits. I'm being serious. The peace of God is fighting against, or not fighting against you, but fighting for you like a warrior. It's like having an army on your side when you have that peace, because these battles can come at you. These enemies can come at you, right? Depression, anxiety, financial struggle, family members that are sick, you getting sick yourself, I don't know, having an unexpected child, whatever it is. But the peace of God is fighting against those things for you. And all you have to do is pray and ask for it with thanksgiving, and you will have it, all right? If you want to memorize a verse right now, Philippians 4, verses 6 and 7, I recommend it. I need to memorize these verses. I don't have it memorized, but that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.